All right, let's dive into something that sounds complicated but is actually pretty fascinating. What really goes down, legally speaking, when a business decides to become a limited liability partnership or an LLP? We're going to break it all down. So, here's the big question on everyone's mind. When a company makes the switch, what happens to all its history? The contracts it signed, the money it owes, even any legal battles it's in. Does it all just vanish? It's a huge deal for any business. The best way to get your head around this is to picture it like a legal relay race. The business doesn't stop running. Instead, it's like a perfectly smooth handover. The business keeps going, but a new runner, that's the LLP, grabs the baton and just keeps sprinting down the track. So let's zoom in on that critical moment. What happens at the exact second that the conversion is officially registered? This is basically the starting pistol for our new runner in the race. Okay, this baton pass has three major things that happen all at once. First, our new runner, the LLP, is officially created. It's born. Second, the baton itself, and we're talking about everything, all the property, the assets, the debts, the whole shebang, is instantly in the LLP's hands. And finally, the old runner, the original company, officially retires and is taken off the books. And this is the part you've really got to get. This transfer is completely automatic. It's total. There's no extra paperwork needed, no extra steps to take. The second that LLP is registered, boom, it legally owns all the good stuff and is on the hook for all the liabilities. It's a clean switch. All right, so the legal ownership has changed. But what does that mean for the day-to-day grind, for the actual business? How does it keep going without stumbling? Well, this is just how seamless it is. I mean, look at this list. Absolutely everything carries over. We're talking all the existing agreements, all the contracts, even employee contracts and business permits. They all just continue as if nothing happened. Except now, the LLP is the name on the dotted line. The business just keeps on trucking. This quote right here really says it all, doesn't it? It's so direct. If you're an employee, your job is secure. Your contract just rolls over to the new LLP. One day you work for the old company, the next day you work for the LLP. Same job, same rights. It's a perfect example of that seamless continuity. And this idea of continuity, of just keeping on going, it applies to the legal system too. The official rulebook and the records for this race don't just get erased. This chart makes it so clear. Before the switch, the old company might be in a court case. After the switch, the new LLP just steps right into its shoes and carries on with that same case. And if a court has already made a ruling against the old company, well, that ruling now applies directly to the new LLP. So you see, there's no reset button here. The LLP picks up the race from the exact same spot, inheriting all the legal history and all the current legal situations. The race just continues no matter what. Okay, so the handover is done, the new runner is on the track, but now comes a really important part, letting everyone know who this new runner is. It's all about being transparent. So while the law says the property transfer is automatic, the real-world paperwork has to catch up. The new LLP has to actually go to places like the land registry and say, hey, we're the new owners now. This makes sure all the public records are up to date and accurate. 12. Okay, remember this number. For 12 whole months after converting, the LLP has another super important job to do. This number is basically your countdown clock for compliance. So what does this actually mean? It means for an entire year, and they have to start within 14 days, every single piece of official mail, think invoices, letters, you name it, has to have a statement on it. It has to say it was converted, and it has to list the name and registration number of the old company. This way, nobody gets confused about who they're dealing with. Now, this is where the law gets serious. These rules aren't just suggestions. So, what if an LLP just decides to ignore all this? What's the worst that could happen? Well, for starters, there's a fine. And it's not a small one. It can be anywhere from 10,000 all the way up to 100,000 rupees. That's a pretty big hit for skipping what seems like a small detail. And it doesn't even stop there. On top of that initial fine, they tack on a daily penalty for every single day the company is still not complying. And trust me, those daily fines add up incredibly fast. It makes just following the rules the only smart move. So, when you boil it all down, what's the one thing you need to remember? It's this. Converting to an LLP is all about changing the legal form of the business, not the actual substance of what it does. The race keeps going. It's just a new runner carrying that same baton.
The must-know rules for foreign limited liability partnerships, or LLPs, that are looking to set up shop in India. If you need the legal roadmap for this specific kind of business, you've definitely come to the right place.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with what a foreign LLP actually is, then we'll walk through getting set up, tackle the really tricky part about certifying your documents, cover what to do when your business changes, and wrap it all up with a super simple compliance checklist.
First things first, right? We need to be on the same page. Let's look at exactly how Indian law defines a foreign LLP. Okay, so check this out. It's really a two-part definition. It's not enough to just be registered in another country. The key is that the LLP has to actually establish a place of business right here in India. That's the trigger. That local presence is what kicks off all the rules we're about to talk about.
So, once you've established that place of business, a legal countdown starts immediately. So what's the very first thing you've got to do?
This is your first, and honestly, your most critical deadline. A foreign LLP gets just 30 days from the moment it sets up a base in India to file all the required paperwork. You really don't want to miss this one, because it can lead to penalties and all sorts of delays. So yeah, circle that date on your calendar.
And the key to hitting that deadline is this document right here, Form 27. You could think of it as the official announcement to the Indian authorities. It's you saying, hey, our international LLP is now officially operating on Indian soil. So what exactly do you have to put in this form?
This really gets to the heart of what the government needs to know. You've got to prove your LLP is legit back home with its incorporation certificate. You need to provide your main address in your home country and your main address here in India. And this is super important. You have to name at least 2 people living in India who are authorized to accept legal notices for the LLP.
Okay, so you've got your documents ready, but just sending them in isn't enough. You have to prove they're authentic. And here's where it gets interesting, because the process for doing that isn't one size fits all. It completely depends on where your LLP is from.
This is the one question you have to answer, because it determines which path you need to follow. The law basically splits the certification rules into 3 different lanes based on your LLP's country of origin.
And this chart breaks it down perfectly. If you're from a Commonwealth country, you've got a few different options for who can certify your docs. But if your country is part of the Hague Convention, you have to get your documents apostilled. That's a very specific kind of international certification. And for everyone else, well, you need that extra step of getting an authentication from a diplomatic or consular officer.
Of course, businesses are always evolving, right? Things don't just stand still. So when something changes in your foreign LLP, maybe you get a new partner or you move your office, you're legally required to report it. But as we'll see, how you report it depends on what changed.
Now, this is a really important distinction to get right. The law basically splits changes into 2 main types, and each one has its own form and its own deadline. Let's break that down.
Think of it like this. On the left, Form 28 is for the big, structural stuff. Things like changing the LLP's constitution or swapping out partners. You report these annually, within 60 days after your financial year wraps up. But on the right, you've got Form 29. This is for the more immediate, on-the-ground changes in India, like a new business address. And for that, the deadline is way tighter. You have just 30 days from the date the change happened.
Whew. Okay, we've gone over a lot of detail. So let's pull all of that together into a quick, easy-to-read checklist so you know the absolute most important things to remember for a foreign LLP in India. Here it is, short and sweet. Kick things off with Form 27 inside that first 30-day window. Make sure you get your documents certified the right way depending on your home country. Use Form 28 for your big annual updates, and then use Form 29 for any of those quick local changes. If you can master these 4 points, you are well on your way to staying compliant.
We're driving deep into the world of foreign limited liability partnerships, or LLPs, in India. We're going to walk through their entire life cycle. Now, for anyone studying business law, this is a really big topic, so let's get right into it. So let's start with a classic scenario. A global company sees the amazing opportunities in the Indian market and decides they want to set up shop here as an LLP. What do? What does that whole journey actually look like? And maybe more importantly, what happens if things get a little rocky? Here's our game plan. We'll look at how they enter India, the rules they have to play by every day, and how they make a clean exit. Then we'll switch gears and explore a critical survival tactic, restructuring when a business is facing some serious challenges. All right, let's start right at the beginning. How does a foreign LLP even plant its flag in India officially? This is the first, most critical step. First things first, what actually makes an LLP foreign in the eyes of Indian law? It's pretty specific. It's any LLP that was originally set up outside of India, but, and this is the key part, then establishes a physical place of business inside India. That single act is what pulls them into the Indian legal system. The whole entry process really boils down to 3 simple steps. First, they have to file a document called Form 27, and they've got a strict 30-day deadline to do it. After that, the registrar takes a look at everything. If it all checks out, they issue a certificate, which is basically the official green light saying, "Welcome, you're now legally recognized here." Okay, so you're registered, the certificate is framed on the wall. What's next? Well, that was just the beginning. To operate legally day-to-day, a foreign LLP has to follow a whole set of rules. Let's look at those. You can think of compliance as having 4 main pillars, and they all circle around one big idea: clarity. We're talking about language, money, public identity, and making sure there's always a way to get official messages delivered. It's all about transparency. This rule is super simple but absolutely crucial. If any of the LLP's official documents aren't in English, they need to have a certified English translation attached. It just makes sure that regulators and partners in India can understand exactly what's going on. No confusion. And this rule drives that transparency point home. Every single invoice, every letter, every publication, it all has to clearly state the LLP's full name and its home country, in English. There should never be any doubt about who you're dealing with. Now, here's a totally practical problem. You need to serve a legal notice. The LLP is supposed to have people in India to accept these documents, but what if they've left, or they can't be found? Does everything just grind to a halt? Nope, the law has a plan for that. And here's that plan. It's a legal safety net. If you can't get the document to the designated person, you can legally serve it just by delivering it to any of the LLP's business locations in India. This makes sure that communication lines can never truly be broken. So, we've talked about getting in and operating. But what about when it's time to leave? An LLP can't just shut the doors and walk away. There's a formal process to make sure it's a clean break. 30 days. That number should sound familiar. Just like there's a 30-day window to register when you start, there's another 30-day window to notify the registrar when you intend to leave. This notice is what officially kicks off the whole closure process. But here's the catch. You can't just file the form and be done. The obligation to keep filing paperwork only stops if 2 things are true. First, you have no other business locations left in India. And second, you filed every single document you were supposed to, right up to that point. You have to have a clean record to make a clean exit. Okay, let's completely change direction here. Instead of leaving, what if an LLP is in serious financial trouble and wants to survive? The law actually provides a powerful tool for that. It's all about restructuring. This process is called a compromise or arrangement. You can think of it as a formal, legally supervised negotiation. It lets a struggling LLP propose a new deal, either to the people it owes money to, its creditors, or to its own partners, to try and find a path forward and avoid a total collapse. And what's interesting is who can get this ball rolling. It's not just the LLP itself, a creditor who wants to get paid, a partner who thinks there's a way to save the business, or even a liquidator can be the one to apply for this process to begin. Now, a compromise isn't just a backroom deal. It's a very formal process, and it's overseen by a legal authority known as the tribunal. The tribunal's job is to act as an impartial guide, making sure everything is done fairly and by the book. And the tribunal is anything but a passive observer. As you can see, it actively directs the whole show. It decides who needs to be at the meeting, where it's held, who's in charge, and even what the voting rules are. This hands-on approach is what gives the whole process its legal strength and fairness.